We are here so you can share your testimonials on how Obamacare changed your day-to-day lives and how Trumpcare, a dimmer version, will affect them if it becomes law. We invited Congressman Yoder, but it looks like we'll have to make do with cardboard Yoder instead. And I want to remind everyone, if you're going to tweet, we'd like for you to use the hashtag #NoShowYoder. Yeah? Okay. So, despite his pledges to protect people with pre-existing conditions, Congressman Yoder voted to pass Trumpcare last Thursday. A bill that was drafted in secret, wasn't scored by the Congressional Budget Office, and was debated only for a few hours. The House itself went against one of its own rules, which states a bill should be posted on its website for 3 full days before it's voted on. What are they hiding? And just like so many of his colleagues confessed after the vote, did Congressman Yoder not read his bill before he voted on it? No. He keeps telling us we can keep all our essential health benefits and that this bill will protect those with pre-existing conditions.
Lies.
He even argued this sentiment in an op-ed piece he wrote in the Kansas City Star this past Wednesday.
Blatant lies.
Who else read it and had to fight to keep from rolling their eyes at all the misleading information? That's right. Congressman Yoder said for those who get insurance through employers and the government, the coverage likely won't change. Likely is the important word in this sentence, because he doesn't know, since Trumpcare gives states the choice to waive covering pre-existing conditions and essential health benefits. Right now, we have a federal law, Obamacare, that covers everyone in the U.S. uniformly. The bill Congressman Yoder voted for will dismantle this to where we will have a patchwork of coverage by states across the country and a patchwork of coverage by employers across each state. It will become the Wild West of healthcare. For the remaining 7% of Americans who aren't on employer or government plans and who will move to Trumpcare, Congressman Yoder mentioned in his op-ed that they will have great access to care. How many times must we tell him? Access does not guarantee affordability. Many people have access to lots of things, even expensive things, but that does not mean that they can afford them. Affordability is a major difference between Obamacare and Trumpcare. Obamacare was written to be affordable. That's why the word affordable is in its name, Affordable Care Act. And it's also why the word was taken out of the new bill, hence the name American Health Care Act. Access versus affordability is the crux of Trumpcare. If it becomes law, insurers would only have to provide access to coverage for people with pre-existing conditions. It says nothing about the rates of that coverage, meaning it would allow for people with serious health issues to be charged more per year. The exact amount might differ from state to state, since some states might not allow the higher rates, but some would. So what would happen under Trumpcare is that people with pre-existing conditions will have to choose between 2 different pools of insurance coverage, both with very high premiums. In either case, people would lack affordable insurance options. Like I mentioned earlier, we invited Congressman Yoder tonight, and we wanted him to attend so he could explain to us why he chose to vote for a bill that would make insurance premiums higher, why he chose to vote for a bill that would allow states to take away coverage of women's health, including maternity and newborn care, and why he chose to vote for a bill that cuts Medicaid for the most vulnerable in our society, just so the wealthy can get another tax cut. Like President Obama said this past Sunday night, courage to aid those who are already powerful, already comfortable, already influential. But it does require some courage to champion the vulnerable and the sick and the infirm, those who often have no access to the corridors of power. And in November 2018, we will remind Congressman Yoder how he showed no courage at all and chose party and politics over the health of the voters of the 3rd Congressional District of Kansas. And now I will have Shannon Scopeland come and speak.
We invited our Congressman, Kevin Yoder, to attend and speak here tonight. We wanted him to tell us why he voted yes on Trumpcare, the AHCA. We wanted to ask if he had read the bill and how he could possibly cast an informed vote when the bill text was rushed through with no congressional budget office estimates of cost or of numbers of insured and uninsured. This isn't the first time we've invited him to an event like this, but he'd rather hold telephone town halls and stick to his talking points. Well, we're here tonight with our own talking points, and that is how Trumpcare affects real Kansans. If Congressman Yoder were here, we tell him we are wise to his sleight of hand on health benefits.
Yeah.
One that lets him claim that Congress left coverage of services like emergency room visits, prescription drugs, pregnancy and maternity care, and preventative wellness visits unaffected, while failing to mention that it leaves decisions about our access to basic health care at the mercy of 50 governors and 50 state legislatures. Trumpcare allows states to waive essential health benefits rules and set up their own standards. How does that play in Kansas? Even though the CanCare expansion bill was passed by both the House and the Senate with nearly 2/3 of the vote, Governor Brownback opted to veto that bill and reject the will of the legislature and reject the will of the voters. What else is left up to the states? Insurance companies could be allowed to charge people with pre-existing conditions more for their coverage if it lapses even briefly. And this could leave up to 1 in 3 Kansans no choice but a high-risk pool, a typically underfunded, high-priced option. How much more could these underwritten plans cost? No one knows. Yoder doesn't know, Brownback doesn't know, and putting the decision in states' hands absolves Congress, but it doesn't protect us.
That's right.
If Congressman Yoder were here, we'd tell him that we see right through his interviews, his press releases, his social media, his insistence that we don't need to worry about essential health benefits or about protections for people with pre-existing conditions, and that all our worry is just media hype. We tell him that we can read between the lines. Here's the truth about Trumpcare. It is a ruse. You don't get more coverage for more people at less cost. Trumpcare might make health insurance cheaper by eliminating essential health benefits or reducing coverage, but it does not make health care any less expensive or more effective. According to the most recent CBO estimate, which doesn't include several recent dark-and-light amendments, if Trumpcare becomes law, 24 million Americans who would have been covered under Obamacare will be uninsured by 2026. And 14 million of these would immediately lose coverage in 2018. It's hard to grasp a number like that. So instead, I want you to think of someone that you know, someone who has benefited from health insurance, someone with a child born with a birth defect, or someone who got cancer, or someone who had to be hospitalized after an accident. And if Congressman Yoder were here, we would tell him about those people. If Congressman Yoder were here, we'd tell him that here in Kansas, we care about our neighbors. We tell him that we understand that insurance means pooling our risks, so that when people get sick or hurt, or when kids are born a little too early, we all chip in so that everyone can stay healthy. And that even if the changes to pre-existing condition coverage affect only 1% of questions about his Trump care vote. Why must Medicaid, including our own care program, be cut by $880 billion? Why should a 45-year-old making $1.5 million a year get the same tax credit for buying insurance as a 45-year-old making $23,000 a year? And until you do that, we will continue to believe that you threw everyday Kansans under the bus to score your party and the Trump administration a cheap political win. Since he's not here, we'll tell our stories and voice our concerns without him.
So we're now going to open the floor for testimonials. And if you could come up to the microphone and give them, that would be great.
Mr. Mr. Yoder, my name is Brian Black. You deleted my question to you on Facebook and had me blocked, so I had to ask again in this forum. And this is a two-part question. We talked about your motivation earlier for voting for the Health Care Act. Was this as a result of constituent response, or was it because of one of the following? $121,000 in campaign funds from insurance industries, $119,000 in campaign funding by the medical industry, $60,750 from the pharmaceutical industry, or more importantly, was it the $236,000 you got from the Republican Party and Koch brothers? Ladies and gentlemen, here is the second part of this question. According to the watchdogs that monitored your campaign funding, I see that you personally invested $435,000 in your own campaign. This is for a job that pays you $174,000 per year. You overspent what you could possibly make by $87,000. So I ask you, sir, are you bad at math? Are you bad at budgeting? Or are you bad at ethics?
Representative Yoder, my father was born in Kansas, as was my mother. My brothers and I were born in Kansas. We're all hardworking people. My brother, my older brother, like his father, his grandfather, and his great-grandfather, served on the city commission and as the mayor of my hometown. He's a good, ethical person. When he was a young man, he had a stomach ulcer, and he had a blood transfusion from somebody who had hepatitis C. He doesn't have hep C. He has hepatitis C antibodies in his blood. He couldn't get insurance before the Affordable Care Act that we know as Obamacare. He would send a check to the insurance company. He would write a letter and say, I know I'll have to pay more. I'll pay more. Just give me insurance. And they would send his check back. This is immoral. This is unethical. And I'd really like to know what your answer is to that.
Hello, Mr. for which I got $12,000 deductible insurance. I was effectively uninsured, but Blue Cross Blue Shield, who ran the Texas program, made out like a bandit on me. Please don't let this kind of thing happen again, not in Kansas.
Representative Yoder, my name is Stephanie Allen, and I'm one of your constituents. And I've been in the healthcare industry for many years, and so I know a little bit about what not having healthcare does to people. And I also know that we do end up paying for people's healthcare. You can kick them off health insurance, but they do end up in the emergency room, and we end up paying for it, or else the hospitals end up closing and nobody gets healthcare. So there really is no way to save money except killing people outright, which it sounds to me like the GOP would like to do. I could be wrong on that. I do have a personal story. My son he went to college. He got a good job in IT, except that they did not want to provide benefits here in Overland Park, Kansas, and so they held him to 30 hours a week so that they did not have to pay benefits. And that was pretty much the standard way they did it. But he was 26, and he couldn't get health insurance because when he was 14 and we moved here, he had a short bout of depression while he was adjusting to a new school. That was enough to keep him off of health care for life. But he was 26 and he was healthy. Well, unfortunately, he ended up with brain cancer with no health care. And he went into a high-risk pool. And right now, I thank God that he is alive and he's doing all right. But if your plan passes, there's no insurance company in the world that will touch him. And you will stand by. And I will watch him die. Thank you.
Representative Yoder, my name is Joe McConnell, I'm one of your constituents. So my dad works over at the Overland Park Community Center. He's actually in the same situation her son was in. They will not give him more than 30 hours a week of work, so he has some benefits. He doesn't make enough to afford insurance, or didn't make enough to afford insurance in the individual market. And for a very long time, he went without health care. He developed a kidney condition that went untreated for a number of years. And he actually would have died if it had not been for the passage of the Affordable Care Act. And we recently, my wife and I, had a little girl, our first grandchild in the family. She's 2 years old now. And so I want to ask you, what do you tell the little girls who would have grown up without their grandfathers, without ever knowing them? What do you tell them? What's your answer to them? What's your answer to people who would have died without health care? And I want to know what you say. What do you say to them? So, thank you.
Kev? May I call you Kev? I'm a constituent of yours. I don't know if you remember this, you probably don't, but last November, we stood in your office and you shook my hand, you looked me in the eye, and you said, I will not get rid of the ban on pre-existing conditions. That was a lie. Now, I know you're not stupid, but you seem to take a very obtuse attitude towards all the ramifications of the AHCA. Throw out all your opinion pieces. You don't seem to understand what's really happening. Well, I think you do understand. There's a famous old saying, it's difficult to get a man to understand something when his salary depends on his not understanding it. I think that sums up your position, your attitude to life, and instead of extolling the virtues of this horrific act that you and your fellow Republicans have passed, I wish you'd just come straight
Representative Gilbert, my name is Todd Stone, and it was a name that you wouldn't have known 4 months ago, but I have a feeling you're getting to know it quite a bit now. Up until 2014, I had voted straight Republican my entire life, and in 2014 I had cast my first vote for a non-Republican, in part because of the growing animosity and hatred that seems to be part of the GOP. At the time I did that, I had no idea that my son, who was at the time 16, now 19, would be afflicted with a rare disease known as PSC, which is only about 10,000 people in America have it. It is a chronic, lifelong disease. And luckily, because of the ACA, he now has coverage under my policy, but when he reaches the age of 26, that is in question. Now you say that the bill that you voted for will cover him, and yet, by my count, you've spent more time at KU basketball games this year than you have either talking to us in a town hall or debating the bill that you're so proud of. So, I don't have a question for you, I just have a statement tonight, which is get your resume ready.
Probably all of us have had to deal with pre-existing condition. I myself have to deal with them about paying a drug that they've paid for the last several years. I personally have had a tragedy in my family where someone has died. Because they failed to know what to help because they had a pre-existing condition. I want to tell you what other countries do for their citizens. This was a post on Facebook. I'm an American, but lucky me, I live in Australia. Here our taxes pay our health care. We even have an after-hour doctor service where doctors come to our home for no charge, provide medication, and then send a full report to your doctor the next day. We found it saves ER costs. Actually, it's cheaper. Costs for open in America is $385,000. We get immediate elective surgery if we have private health care, no waiting for those insured, but our insurance is cheap. Cost for my husband and me, $350 a month, covers both of us and includes dental and glasses. I had a bowel tumor, huge surgery, and 7 days in the hospital with months of aftercare. Cost me $200. Don't get me started on Big Pharma. Prescribed Nexium, $330 here, but in the United States, here in Australia, $10. Our government pays for most prisoners, our pensioners, medical care costs. We have public housing for those in trouble. Our vets and mentally ill are cared for, and no one is stigmatized for being broke. Here, minimum wage is almost $18 an hour. Our paid sick leave is $10 a year, accumulative. I didn't use it, and when I ended up having surgery, I had 3 months paid leave. We have family leave, 5 days if your kid is sick or mom, etc., in the family, and bereavement leave too. 9% extra of our wages goes to the personal superannuation account paid by the employer by law. This amount accumulates and is invested in the person's name, cannot be taken by government, and that is there for our retirement. Employers don't pay medical here, so they can't afford it. I know 30-year-olds with over $150,000 in a retirement account. America's rich. You guys have the money to care for your citizens. Per capita, America is 35th on the UNICEF child poverty scale. 35th. Even Romania is doing better. 22% of American children live in poverty. Virtually 1 in 4. While politicians work full-time trying to cut taxes to the wealthy, this is the richest country in the world. Where does your money go? That our politicians aren't sticking up for us. They could care less about us. They don't care. And until it really hits them at home, they have no idea what it's like. But they're covered. Their health care is much.
They have Obamacare.
Years ago, Michael Moore, and I know he's controversial, but he made a movie named called Sicko, and I viewed it in my home at a small crowd. And going further on with that, I know that there's a House Bill HR 676. Yes. Is supporting that, and I have a brochure on that if anyone's interested. There are nurse unions. I've said this so many times on Facebook, it should be easy for me to say. Nurse unions, physician groups, medical students, and even business owners want a single payer for everyone. There's a video that you can watch on YouTube that lasts about 60 minutes, and I have a sheet about it. It's called Fix It, Our Healthcare Systems in Crisis. It was about a conservative, he claims to be a conservative businessman, that every year, insurance costs escalate. And he said, there's got to be a better way to provide care for my employees. And so that I can budget it into my business plan every year. So he took it upon himself, and he wrote this, and he interviewed people after people, specialists after specialists, people that know about healthcare, like nurses and doctors. And he interviews these throughout the video, and he comes to the conclusion that the single payer is the best way to do it, and it will help our business owners. Obviously, it's built through the tax system. Everyone's covered. So if anybody's interested in learning about this, I just took a copy of a few of the brochures. You can also find it, like I said, www.fixithealthcare.com. Indivisible.com. And then the physicians group is supporting the HR 676 out of California. Does everybody know that California is trying to do a single payer? Colorado tried to do that, but you know who put their money in to get it out of there? KOCHS Brothers. And those that are here that are Republicans, I want you to know that a lot of times you'll hear people bashing the Republicans. And I really kind of have a different outlook on this. There's a big difference. There's the Republican politicians, and then there's the Republicans. The Republicans believed, from my experience, in helping the poor. The Republicans believed in making sure our public schools are financed so that our kids will get a good education and it helps our future. Republicans care about our deficit. And if we had a single payer, study after study shows it costs less money. Go ahead. I think, you know, I almost put out a note saying everybody show up at the ER. They would freak out. Y'all show up at the ER.
Or do we need to wait for us congressional for us to vote in for this to persuade everyone like you tried to tell them
Right, no, he just walked away.
How long will that take?
I think we all have to just call constantly and constantly and constantly. I have a phone number. If you want it. Okay, I think somebody else needs to speak. Thank you very much. If anybody wants to talk
Well, good evening, voters and younger. My name is Emily Smith. I'm one of your constituents. You probably recognize my name because I've sent you countless letters, emails. I've called your offices in D.C. and Overland Park many, many times. I've posted on your Facebook page. And, oh, by the way, I'm your sister, so you might also recognize me from that. I am a self-employed musician. So is my husband. He retired from his teaching job in 2011. And after 25 years of paying into our employer-based insurance and having no problem with that, all of a sudden we were denied coverage. It wasn't a matter of we could afford it or not. We couldn't get it. Why? Because of pre-existing conditions. And this from the very same insurance company we had been with all of those years when he was a school teacher. So thankfully, Obamacare was passed. And even so, we had to go for 6 months without insurance. We had catastrophic among all the other cuts that it makes, it also takes away the employer mandate for employers at a certain level, having a certain number of employees, to provide coverage for their employees. Now, my son, who is 24 and works for a very good company in Overland Park, it's kind of his dream job, but it's a small company. They have about 40 employees. He has great health insurance. He's afraid he'll lose his coverage because his employer may not be able to negotiate with insurance companies for affordable coverage for all of their employees. And that's something I think a lot of people really haven't thought about much. Certainly, you didn't think about it when you voted for this bill, but I would like you to think about it now. And I also voted for the city. We are there. We are there.
Thank you so much. I think we have time for maybe one or two other stories. Would anyone like to share? Okay.
Unless anybody else wants to. No, please go for it. Okay. Not really sure if I should talk to you guys. Or if I should talk to him. He's not here, so I'm going to talk to you guys. That's okay. And I'm short, so this is hard. I want to start by telling you guys what I am, which is a native Kansan. My whole family lives in this state, and I'm also a returned Kansan. I moved to Denver, I've moved to Chicago, I've been to California, and know what people sometimes think about people in our state. That we are stupid, or that we are unified in our ideas, or not. But there are some things that I like to think that Kansas is unified of. My heart is beating. I'm not a good public speaker. But my family taught me that Kansas care about the neighbors. I don't think this bill does a very good job of caring for our neighbors. Some things that I'm not. I am not a healthcare person. I've never been seriously sick. There have never been any major tragedies in my family, thankfully. But I'm a person that cares, and I'm a person that pays attention, and I'm a young person, and I think a lot of people think that we're not paying attention, but we are. And mostly what I want to say is to you guys and Kevin Yoder, that there are a lot of people that maybe aren't here, and there are a lot of people that maybe aren't speaking up, or they're speaking up in ways that are easy to ignore. But there are a lot of people that care. We care about our neighbors. We're not stupid. We're paying attention. And another thing about Kansas values is that we deserve to be looked in the eye when we're making decisions about each other. There are a lot of points about this bill. There are so many bad things about it, and I could talk about them all. But I think the biggest issue here is that our representative isn't here to listen to us. And he needs to come talk to us.
right in there someday. But the public record is going to be the equivalent of the textbook is going to say something, grammar. I won't say it in this place, but you can just grab me by the and do what you want. And it's disgusting. I'm terrible. He's delegitimizing our media. Nobody knows who to trust anymore. One side, the other side, the way outside. We don't know what to do. The Justice Department is tainted. The House investigation is tainted. The Senate investigation is toothless. I want an independent special prosecutor. I guess my question is, Yoder, on a scale of 1 to 10, how tired of you are of all this winning? How tired? Getting tired.
Wow, so thank you guys so much for coming out tonight. It inspires me seeing this many people show up for an empty chair town hall, because you guys care that much that you're going to come out here, you're going to tell your stories whether or not he shows up, because this is such an important topic. So what we're going to do now is we're going to go ahead and call him. I want you to all pull out your cell phones and look on your program, and on your program, his local number and his DC number are right there. Look at that, you got it on the big screen. Good job, guys. So I want you all to just start dialing, and I want you to leave him a message and tell him you're at a town hall held in his honor that he did not show up to, and you disagree with his vote for Trump Care. Now, if those mailboxes are busy, I want you to move on to Senator Roberts and Senator Moran and tell them to vote no on Trump Care. All right, you guys ready? You can do this. Let's start dialing. I want to see everyone with their phone up to their face right now. Are we getting busy signals? So go ahead and start wrapping up your calls, and then we're going to have a moment of silence in just a minute, okay? So what we're going to do now is we're going to have a moment of silence to recognize the people that will lose their health care if Trump care becomes law. And then we're going to dismiss you by rows, and we're going to have a processional right down the middle aisle here, okay? So we're going to start at the front, and then we're going to work our way to the back. Again, because sometimes it can seem kind of silly that we have this empty chair town hall, we have a cardboard deodor. It's like we're making a joke, but this is deadly, deadly serious. People's lives are absolutely on the line, and we want to recognize that and recognize the people who are going to suffer if this becomes law. So let's all take a moment and bow our heads and have a moment of silence.
2 weeks effective mosquito.